Why do the dudes from LA think they're better than anyone else? What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today, this may be a little controversial. There's going to be people, this is one of those videos, there's going to be some people that are going to be feeling themselves when they hear this. And there's going to be some other people that are going to say, I'm hating. And it is what it is. So, this video might be a little bit all over the place, but it's a Friday. This is a get ready to go out or getting through traffic or whatever video, okay? Those of you that have been on the channel for a while, you guys know I've been incarcerated, unfortunately, through my poor decision making. I was incarcerated the majority of my life. The last term, prison term I did, I was incarcerated for over 24 years. I was convicted of a gang-related murder, had a life sentence, and really was forced to grow up while I was in there. Been out over 7 years, been off parole for about around 4, close to 4, whatever. But I've been a productive member of society since I've been out. However, that's not why you're here. You're here to hear about these LA dudes and the way they look at everybody else. And I'm here to tell you. So, I'm from Santa Barbara, California. The most beautiful place on earth. Are there even gang members in Santa Barbara? Obviously, there are. Obviously, there have been. And I'll say this. My father is in his 70s. And he's from a rival gang. So that's just to give you an understanding of how old the gangs are in Santa Barbara. Is Santa Barbara the most violent place? No. In California? No. Is it even close to the safest? Absolutely not. You can Google it. I see it, a lot of times in the comments, people will say, what does Dubs know? Dubs grew up in Santa Barbara. No, Dubs grew up in prison. Dubs grew up doing time. Started doing time at 13 years old. I paroled the last time at 43 years old. And I got off parole, I think I was 46. I think. 46 or 47. Don't remember. But I remember it was right before my birthday. And I actually cried. There you have it. I cried because it was the first time in that many years, since the age of 13, that I wasn't under the thumb of the state, of the county, under some type of supervision. This video, I want to talk about how during my incarceration, I've touched on this in a few different videos, and I decided today I wanted to do it again. When I entered the California Youth Authority, which is prison for kids, I went into the California Youth Authority when I was 15. I was a 15-year-old knucklehead, and I was thrown in with all these cats from LA, all these barrios, all these hoods. Didn't know nothing about them, and here we go. Right away, wasn't long into the YA experience where I started hearing about 13 and a half. Those of you that aren't aware, 13, I'm not going to get into the details. This isn't the channel that does that. But 13 is a number that is represented by people who are affiliated, Raza, Mexican gang members affiliated with Southern California. There are Mexican gangs in Northern California that represent the 13, and we will talk about that in a second too. 14 is the number that is designated for Mexican gang members in Northern California. There are no 14s in Southern California. There's 13s in Southern and Northern California. Wrap your head around that. So, not long into the YA experience that I started hearing from the LA cats. Oh, you vatos from Santa Barbara, you 13 and a half, homie. you vatos don't know if you want to be 13 or 14. And then that was when it was my obligation to beat that person up. So they understood, you are not going to talk to me like that, and you're not going to talk about where I'm from like that. Let me beat you down and then get you to understand where I'm from. And so there was a lot of that initially when I went to YA. No, I'm not the baddest dude on the planet. But I had a chip on my shoulder because you were not going to treat me as if I was different or less than. And I got along with everybody. The homies I got along with. But there was always that thing. You know, we also play area codes. So Ventura County, part of LA County back then, part of a northern part of LA County, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, San Luis Obispo County, and Kern County were all 805 back then. And not only did the LA cats like to call us 13 and a half, but a favorite little pastime they like to do was, instead of calling us, oh, them dudes from the 805, they would say the vatos from 80 Farms. And so we were always fighting over that. You know, we had to fight more for respect. So the LA dudes were always deep. San Diego was always deep. The IE was deep. Orange County was always deep. Those are the biggest areas, right? And when they went somewhere, they always had homeboys. So they weren't tested the way the dudes from the 805 were tested. And that's why a lot of times the dudes from the 805 and YA, they were good with these. Really good with these. Because see, we didn't go to a dorm and have 5 homeboys there and then not get tested because their 5 homeboys are like, it's my homeboy, homies, don't even trip on that vato. Go fuck with that vato from the 805. You know, and we had there was little, 805 had Arvina, McFarland, you know, really, really small neighborhoods that you might only see one dude from in the whole institution from there. But they were there, and they were there for putting in work, and they were putting in work when they were there. Shout out to Kern County, shout out to Arvina, shout out to McFarland, shout out to everybody. So I was always very rowdy. Good at making people. I would bag on everybody. So I was liked. I would fight all the time, you know, to make sure, hey, Holmes, nah, you're not going to talk about the 805 that way. I was respected in YA. I wound up being one of the YA shot callers, which is nothing big. But in YA, you know, I ran a dorm. I was respected by everybody. As far as, you know, all the homies, they had respect for me. But my YA experience was what my YA experience was. And YA has this thing where it's going to form a lot of the way you look at things, right? All your life experiences form a certain thing in your life. And I went into the prison system, the California Department of Corrections, right? And while in the California Department of Corrections, I went in with a life sentence. I went in knowing, because back then that was a fact. If you got a life sentence in California back then, you were given the death penalty. It was just a slower death penalty. You were going to die either a violent death in the cell or on the yard or in the chow hall, or you're going to die of old age, but you were going to die in prison. Period. And so me being the way I wasn't okay with just hanging out on the yard and having small talk and bullshitting. No, my whole thing was, if this is going to be my world, I'm going to have as much say in it as I can. And so I hung around the older dudes. I hung around the dudes that were more seasoned. I hung around the dudes who had earned a reputation in there, and I was schooled by them. I sought like-minded individuals. I didn't hang around with the snakes. I didn't use drugs. I didn't drink. And so I didn't pick up any of those bad habits that come with or that could potentially come with that crowd. I gravitated more towards the dudes that were gangsters in there. And I learned how to make money in there. I learned a whole lot of things in there. And I learned the value of a camarada in there. Later on, when I went to New Folsom the second time, unfortunately, due to a lack of leadership or a lack of good leadership there, myself and four other individuals had to step in, and we had to take over control of the yard, and it became our responsibility, and we did a pretty great job. Now, I had met homies from San Jose, the ones when I had said earlier, there are dudes that represented 13 that lived in Northern California. And I met a few dudes from San Jose back then. And one of them stood out to me. Dude had major hands. I told the story already. It's in my video catalog. You'd have to find it. Him beating up one of the cops, calling him out. They went in the cell. He beat him down. And, so I had been around them. There's nothing new to me. However, when I got to C facility, when I got to New Folsom the second time, I want to say there was at least 15 of them there. Now they use the term Upstater, so that's what I'm going to use now because that's what people recognize it as. We never used that term in there. I never heard the term. That's a divisive word. If you break it down, that's saying I'm not from there. I represent the same thing, but I'm different. And I kind of get it, and this story will probably get you to understand that. There were a lot of homies in the joint. I was surprised. To me, there were probably vatos I never went to YA or whatever. I don't know. But they used to look at the Upstaters as they weren't equal. They were 13 and a half. Some dudes used to even use a derogatory term that's used towards the Northerners. They would use it towards Upstaters. I always stood up for them. I had several occasions where they would be like, man, fuck them vatos, eh? They ain't even homies. And I would have to call them on their shit on the spot. Hey, homies, who are you, eh? Are you somebody that we need to know about here? That was a line I would use. Anytime somebody acted as if they were a legend on the yard, I need to know about this because the legends were all in the bay. They weren't on the main lines at that time. They were all in the bay, slammed down. Corcoran slammed down. They were in the shoes. So I would ask vatos, hey, Holmes, are you somebody that slid through or something and we need to know about you? And they were, oh, nah, Holmes, this. Like, I guess they thought I was going to be into it, or because the other vatos that were hanging around, snake-ass vatos, that they thought that same way, that I thought that way. But remember, I had the chip on my shoulder. See, I went through the being called 80 Farm, 13 and a half. So these vatos that were from upstate, but representing that same thing this vato's representing, who is this vato? And that's one of those things, and I may do another video on that, where now, me being in a leadership position, one of the ones in a leadership position there, and you speaking ill about these vatos, now, I might want to take it upon myself to look into, when was the last time you did something for the pad? Have you done a pegada yet? Have you proven your worth to even earn what you're saying they are not? Because if you get on my nerves, I'm going to go ahead and have to look into that. And I'm not telling them this. This is when the wheels start turning. Who the fuck does this vato think he is? Because it's very rare when you meet somebody who's schooled in the correct manner that they're ever going to look at any camarada and be worried about where he's from. It's not. Where you're from means absolutely nothing when you hit the joint. I don't care if you're from the biggest, craziest barrio or if you're an upstater. It's what you're doing behind those walls that's going to make or break you. So it's funny because me being from Santa Barbara, I remember at one point there was a dude and he was like, hey, homie, with all due respect, hey, where is Santa Barbara anyways? And I was like, where are you from, homie? And I'm from Los. I'm like, I'm an hour and a half away from you. Like, where do you think I'm at? I'm in Santa Barbara's in Southern California. And they're like, man, one dude actually told me this. He said, man, when because I was always sticking up for the dudes from upstate. My right-hand man, if I got snatched up, he was going to get in my seat, was from Santa Rosa. Shout out to everybody in Santa Rosa. And, but he was like, man, when they said Santa Barbara, I thought you were one of them homies that's from up north. And I was like, but what makes you think that? And he goes, because you're from Santa Barbara, eh? Like most of the Santas and the Sands, they're all up north, no? And I'm like, well, where's San Diego at? Where's Santa Monica at? Where's Santana at? Where's San Dimas at? Like, are those are like LA and Orange County, San Diego, right? Like, and they're like, oh yeah. And that's why, if they had cameras in prison, you would see some of the most brutal shit, but also some of the funniest shit. This video is for you to pass the time today, have a good day. This video is for me, it's just a video. I was having a conversation with somebody today, and we were talking about the way, Vatos from Los had it better than most because they had so many homeboys. And they go through the system, and sometimes there's favoritism, especially in why. In the joint, there's not supposed to be none. I never played it. Anywhere I was at, I would pull homies came from Santa Barbara County to where I was at. I would pull them over and say, hey, homies, you know what I'm fucking with, right? And they'll be like, yeah, I heard you're doing this and this and that. And I would tell them, okay, so just so you know, you are a reflection of me. And so if you do anything wrong around here, you are going to get it worse than anybody. Nobody's ever going to say I play favoritism. So stay on your P's and Q's. All right. And I made it a point to almost never hang out with anybody from Santa Barbara County. There were occasions when I did. But I never hung around with just anybody anyways. If I can learn from you, I want to learn from you. The vatos that I was closest to on the yard, I would always tell them, hey, don't take it personal if I never hang out with you on the yard. Like, I would kick it with them like in a cell if they were my cellie or in the day room or something. But I would tell them, if I'm on the yard and I don't hang out with you, don't take it personal. You and I are already on the same page. I want to hang out with the camaradas that are a potential adversary because I want to know where they're at mentally. I want to know what they're plotting. I want to laugh at their jokes and they can laugh at mine because we're probably plotting on each other. That's the nature of California state prisons. Anyways, that's my video for today, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. This weekend is a big weekend. Canelo is going to be knocking out Berlanga, I say the 8th round. UFC. Las Vegas, if you're out there in Las Vegas, be careful, be safe, man. No matter where you are, drink responsibly. Utilize Uber, Lyft, taxis, whatever you can. Stay your ass out of trouble and stay your ass out of jail. I'm out of here, you guys.